Welcome back. You're watching Standpoint here on Morning Prime. And of course, we continue pace with the conversations that are now the news that we had for you was set as a segue. We want to primarily look at what is happening in, of course, Magarini right now with the by-election that is supposed to be happening since the nullification of the Member of Parliament there, that is Kombe, with him now losing his seat. What does it really portend moving forward for that particular constituency? And that we know has addressed questions regarding the IBC and their constitution. We don't have commissioners right now. And the NADICO report also, we have altercations with it with one of the co-chairs, this is Kalonzo Musyoka, decrying the fact that also in the Senate there are people who are seeking to alter some of the constituents of that particular document. Let's just focus into that briefly. We begin with you, Sosyon. With that latest development in Magarini, we don't have an IBC right now. That should be a niggling worry. We know also in Basini, Member of Parliament, clocking now to a year, has not been elected.
It's a big worry. It's not just the two constituencies missing members of Parliament. There are also wards, some wards across the country. And generally, we need to have a functional IEBC that should be preparing for 2027 elections. But we are all aware that the nation got into a dialogue process, and there is a NADCO report. That NADCO report is a serious document. It contains various points of agreement by the various political institutions in this country, and it is yet to be dispensed of by the National Assembly and the necessary institutions. The reconstitution of the IEBC in terms of the chairperson and commissioners is critical, and it can only be done once the IEBC Amendment Act is dispensed of by Parliament. And of course, Parliament will have to consider the provisions of the law in terms of appointment of selection panel, because it begins with the selection panel that will be vested with the responsibility of advertising the various positions and conducting interviews, short of which it will be unconstitutional to conduct any elections without a minimum quorum of the commissioners available at the IEBC. So really, this calls for the National Assembly to move with speed and urgency to ensure that the necessary statutes are put in place and there are agreements, because I believe the NADCO report has guided the process very well, and there's no need to delay any further. Let us have the IBC Act in place. Let us have the process of appointment of chair and commissioners of IBCs conducted, so that then anything to do with elections and by-elections cannot be delayed. It is unjust for a constituency to stay for over 1 year or 2 years without representation, without a member of Parliament. That is not right. And that is not what the Constitution envisaged. It envisaged that an IEBC shall be in place at all times and shall conduct by-elections in constituencies that have been declared vacant by the Speaker issuing the writs of vacancies of those particular constituencies and for the wards, and also to prepare for the next general elections. And I think over time, we've been strengthening our electoral management system, right from the bungled elections of 2007. We've had processes of ensuring that we have a reliable IEBC, and the questions that were raised prior to 2022 and after 2022 have been addressed through NADCO report. All those recommendations should be implemented so that the country is at peace and the people of Kenya can drink from the fountains of justice of services from IEBC. More important is the preparation for 2027. The preparation for 2027 cannot commence in 2026. It must go now. Of course, Azimio have over time raised the audit of elections of 2022. By law, the auditing of elections of 2022 shall have to be conducted by IEBC. It can only be done if the chair and commissioners are in place. That is a provision of the law. That is a provision of the Constitution. We don't have any reason as a country anymore not to have a chair of IEBC, whom we know, and not to have commissioners of IEBC, and who are independent and who can be trusted to deliver any elections in the country. So I think it's time Parliament dispense of that matter. There is no reason to delay anymore.
But we have the co-chair, Kalonzo Musyoka, accusing the Kenya Kwanza administration of the intention of sabotaging this NADCO report. And we know it's taken such a lengthy time, a very protracted time to come up.
Those are political arguments, and political arguments are political arguments. Kalonzo may have his own feelings and reasons, and is an interested party of the other side, and being the co-chair, is entitled to make those comments. But I can tell you, without any iota of doubt, that President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza administration have no interest in obstructing a product that has been agreed upon by Kenyans. And furthermore, the president himself acceded to the process, and is a firm believer of a country that engages in dialogue.
We are halfway through the year since we had this conversation on NADCO report and its implementation, going through both houses, being debated, and still we have not gotten any implementation of the report, because there's so many kinks away from what was discussed. This is not solely what was with the committee. It is actually in the House, and it's stuck there at the end of the day. So the question is, what is the intent of amending that particular NADCO report?
I don't think anybody intends to amend and interfere with the NADCO report. Let the NADCO report go through the due process. That's one. Two, we are discussing here about reconstitution of IEBC, the members of Parliament,
which is very key, and of course is a key component of the NADCO report itself.
Yes, and there is already a bill in Parliament, I believe, in relation to reconstitution of the IEBC, and therefore that process should be expedited and concluded. Then that becomes the business of the National Assembly. It becomes the business of Parliament. So it can be the work of the executive.
All right.
That's the work of Parliament
from Honorable
to dispense of its responsibilities.
We thought if we go with the NADCO report and what was enshrined in the NADCO report regarding also the boundaries, that we are actually pinched for time for the boundary review, and we could be facing a constitutional crisis. Actually, we should be in a constitutional crisis if we follow the due process of the law as it is right now. And NADCO report seemed to be the quickest panacea of helping us, especially bridge that particular time frame to 15 years. Was it 15 years? Mm-hmm. Right? From what this constitution stipulates. So I wonder what is really at the tripping wire.
It is really it's politics. And politics is wordy, long, and not practical. The NADCO report we actually discussed and passed it in Parliament. What now remained was
without any amendments.
It was, I think, it was passed without any amendment.
Why?
No, there were some amendments. They were considered not really significantly changing the content of the report. What is now remaining is actually the bills. There are bills that are coming with it, amending the IBC Act, amending the Political Parties Act. So there are actually several bills. These bills actually. We have the bills, and then actually I thought that they would come immediately after we passed the NADCO report with those minor amendments. And so, but what has come is the budget process and the finance. In my view, I think that as soon as these two are over, we should have the bills, because the bills have been proposed, they are in the House. What is remaining, I think, is just for them to appear in the order paper, which is the work of the House Business Committee. So we are delaying. In my view, I agree with you. We are actually in a crisis because we have seats of Parliament that are vacant. The Magarini one has just become vacant. The other one was, it's over a year now. And what happens to those constituencies? What happens, like in this case, to the member of parliament? Is he going to sit there waiting? He's not in parliament. His seat may be declared vacant, but there is nobody to even act. So the truth is,
what happens to the CDF?
In those circumstances, even that becomes a problem. The CDF can actually run because the CDF
there's a committee.
There's a committee. Mm-hmm. The CDF committee is relatively independent. The member of parliament is just a patron. So if you actually have a good chairman who was there before, and I think, as in this case, it's most likely that the chairman that is in Magarini is somebody who is probably agreeable to the member of parliament who has now lost the seat. But I think it should run. I don't think there's anything in law that will stop it from running. Yeah, because it's only the patron. But the chair and the committee are there, and there's a fund manager. And those processes, in my view, can go on. But politically it's difficult because the patron really sets the agenda and the political agenda of what should be done. And I don't think he'll be able to do that effectively, although he can't still. But now, if they had actually done proposals before, which they should have done by now, I don't see anything stopping them from actually going ahead and implementing those proposals. Where there would be a problem is, I think, from August, when we should have another proposals being brought, public participation being done in the constitution. Even that can actually be done without the member of parliament, but it will be politically not wise to do it. But the point is, I'm expecting that those bills should be in the House as soon as possible. In my thinking, I only expect that after the budget and the finance bill, if I see any other bill in the House that is not related to the NADCO report, that is an IEBC amendment bill, a political parties amendment bill that are arising from the NADCO report, and I think as a country we'll be joking. And that is the chair of the House Business Committee, and that is basically the work of the Speaker. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. I think that's where it is. Mm.
So what is the chair or the party leader, who's the co-chair of the NADCO report, what are some of the tickling issues that he sees that, if this is not passed as is, then it will be such a travesty of justice to the entire committee who spent their time also going about all the counties, getting views as well, sitting long hours to make sure that we have an intact report. Yet there's some things that they deemed not to fit.
Yeah, maybe before I come to the NADCO report, which was co-chaired by my party leader, let me just comment on the issue of Magarini. You know,
in the context of Magarini as well.
In the context of Magarini, I think the courts have done their work. It's expected by the Constitution. But I think the timing is an issue. You know, currently we are having the Banisa issue. We are Member of Parliament passed on, and up to now, those people have not been able to go through a by-election because we don't have IBC commissioners. And what happens when you have no member of parliament? You know, you are not able then to exercise what a member of parliament does in parliament. For example, the issue of oversight, that constitution is left out. Issue of budget making, they are left out. Issue of representation, because they have no representative in parliament now, and even legislation. So when a member of parliament loses his or her seat, then automatically it means you have denied the voters that right, which is a constitutional right. The other thing which is critical, and I think that's what you can see what Honorable Nyikao is saying, normally, procedurally, it might not be in the Act, in the CDF Act, but automatically your seat is declared vacant. The CDF board, the one at the headquarters, actually suspends all activities related to finance. So you find most of those accounts now, the fund manager will get an internal letter from the CEO saying, do not transact any business up to the time you get another member of parliament. What is the reason for that? The way the board, the NG CDA board at the constitutional level is constituted, there's a lot of involvement of the MP. Up to an extent, you see, what happens is there's normally an appointee of the office of the member of parliament, who you do through writing. You say, I've appointed so and so to sit in that board. In the issues of disability, there's also the MP who writes to the disability bodies within the constituency to say, appoint someone. So there are about 3-4 positions which are appointed through the MP's office. And normally, just hold on to that. I need to sort out your mic. I think is a bit it's not crackling on air, so I'll sort it out as we hear from Honorable Sossion. So moving forward, as it stands, we have other wards as well that are affected. It's not only the Basini. We have wards where we have MCAs who have not also all the positions have not been filled because of this quagmire that we are in.
Yeah, this lacuna.
This lacuna is big, and it seems also Parliament in recess right now. All right.
Up to today. Tomorrow we are on.
Tomorrow you're back, and so is the Senate as well.
I don't know their calendar.
Even if it is on recess, organizing and planning for business is not stopped. Parliament has to program itself, and as has been stated by Honorable Nyikal, what takes precedence when Parliament resumes is the budget-making process and the finance bill, which I believe will be dispensed of. And the various pieces of legislation in relation to NADCO and IBC are no longer in the hands of the executive. And so nobody should insinuate that the executive or anybody has interest in controlling, and so the comments by the Wiper leader are actually out of place. The pieces of legislation are within the ambit of Parliament. So it's up to Parliament and the House Business Committee to fast-track the process of these pieces of legislation. And once they are dispensed of by Parliament, the President will ascend them into law. And once that is done, then the process of reconstituting IBC will commence, which will also take some reasonable period of time. So people of Magarini may have to do without members of Parliament for a while. But I believe if Parliament can expedite within a period not exceeding 2 months, this process can be concluded and by-elections can be conducted for the wards, the many wards. We don't know the number, and the 2 constituencies. So really, it cannot be done without an IBC in place, because everything has to be done within the law and the constitution. So the honors of expediting it is in the hands of Parliament. And Parliament is an independent arm. It's not controlled by the executive. The work of the executive, once these pieces of legislation are concluded, will be the President to ascend them into law. And the constitution and the law is made in such a way that even if the President doesn't ascend them into law right after passage, they automatically become law within 14 days. So the fate of all the constituencies, the 2 constituencies, and the wards rest in the hands of the National Assembly. So can the National Assembly dispense of this matter? So that...
So what is that issue? Because it seems also the National Assembly is not addressing this matter with the urgency and the seriousness it deserves. You seem to be resting easy on your laurels, yet we have a crisis. We are debating, I think, the priority of some of these bills that we have on the floor of the House. I don't know. What is the merit?
Because I wasn't able to conclude my...
Yeah, but just begin with my question as you back here.
What I'll do is...
Why is there no urgency?
Actually, the thing is, from what Honorable Sossion is saying, I'm very surprised because Sossion has been a member of Parliament for 5 years. And he knows that even though it's the duty of the House Business Committee to set the agenda, government agenda is always given priority. And normally, even the way the House Business is structured, you realize in terms of representation, it has more people from the government side from the majority than the minority. The other thing is, these bills, and this is why my party leader is raising these issues, these bills and whatever is in the NATCO report, in terms of recommendations, was through a negotiated process. There was a give and take between the two teams. And for them to arrive at the recommendations, there was a lot of discussion around them, and then even the principals were consulted. Principals in quotes here is Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga and President Ruto. And then that was agreed. So immediately you tried to open this NATCO report to the parliament debate, parliamentary debate. What will happen now, interest will come up again. And I can tell you for sure, we will not make any progress. But I just want to give Kenyans assurance that the IBC bill, the proposed IBC amendment bill, that one is being fast-tracked. And we have all agreed as a
Where
house.
is it at right now?
Actually, I think we should be passing it immediately, go back to the house. Because by the time we left the house, I think it had gone through second reading. So very soon we will be getting through it. Because it's like that one we have agreed as it is.
Very soon is when?
As it is. Immediately we are resuming the house tomorrow afternoon. So don't be surprised in the next 1 or 2 weeks.
That is not in the order paper for tomorrow. Or maybe you're not privy to the order paper.
What
you will
know,
be discussing tomorrow.
I've not checked it yet. But what I know, even by the time we went on recess, because the reason why we were to break for a month was because of budget calendar, so that departments can process the budgets and all that. But what I know, after the budgets, the next immediate item will be the IBC bill, because we want to sort that one out. And the reason we are sorting it out is what I was saying earlier, that we need to take care of these wards which have no MCRs, constituencies which now we used to have one constituency, no MP, now there are 2, including what has happened. And that's why you see my party leader is saying he wishes that things are just passed as they agreed. Because both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza reached an agreement that this is how we want to proceed. And if we do that, then we'll be able to unlock most of this stalemate which is happening.
And I thought maybe since you have, both sides of the house really come to this particular committee, issues that will have been raised on the floor of the House in the National Assembly, right, will have been taken care of by some of its members of parliament. You have the majority leader. Was the majority leader part of our committee as well?
Yes.
Minority.
Right, and
minority
as well.
Yeah.
So both houses, those.
But
So I'm not trying to posture that the National Assembly will be now rubber stamping what has been passed by the committee, but I thought that was the essence, so that time is of essence. We need to expedite this particular process because also a constitutional crisis is imminent.
You will remember some of our discussions back in this program. The Honorable Sution was saying that the executive has nothing to do with it, it's in parliament. The truth is, the leadership in the House Business Committee, the numbers and the chairing is actually from the Kenya Kwanza team. And when you have government bills, they move very fast and they come to the House. So even the decision in the House Business Committee is subject to the same forces that you see on the floor of the House, the numbers. So they can sit in the House Business Committee, but if the Kenya Kwanza team are not keen to get something on the order paper, it may not still, they will still have to vote on it in the House Business Committee. So the way there is independence and there is separation, but in the end, through the political process, this is what we are expecting. I think I'm expecting today we are going to get the order paper and the Bunge program today. But what I'm expecting is that we'll have the budget, we'll have the finance bill. The finance bill may come a little later because the public participation probably is not over. But the budget we'll expect to come, then the finance bill, and then what we'll expect next are these bills. Really, that's what should be in place. If the House Business Committee will go in the order of the needs of the country, because without IBC, we have a problem. We are tottering on the edge of unconstitutionality, because we can't process political processes like elections. And even if you're thinking of 2027, a general election is a massive thing. If 3 years down the line, you don't have the body that is going to do it, maybe the officers are working on it, but the guidance, that the team itself needs from the IBC, the membership must be there. So if we go on with it for maybe another year and we haven't got it, and you are giving only 2 years for the preparation, it will be a problem. So I'm expecting that the House Business Committee will prioritize the amendments that to IBC and the Political Parties Act that came from the NADCO report. The NADCO report was passed. The report itself is now done. So what is now coming is the bills that came out of that report that will actually implement it. You are wondering whether we passed it without. There were some amendments, but it was agreed by both sides of the House that they were minor. They didn't affect the substance of the report. But it is the bills that will eventually bring into effect the contents of the report, and we need them, particularly because of IBC, for preparation for 2027.
So there's a lot of a debate on the floor of the House even tomorrow. Any one of you can pick up the tab and ask the question on the floor, or who can?
No, we can raise it. I mean, nobody stops that. Nobody stops
Isn't
me.
Why can't you do
to
it
say when are they coming? But you will have. For now, I know how it will work. The reality of it is the budget and the finance bill will take precedence.
Okay, the question I'm asking is, yes, going by the standing orders, that yes, you have your order paper tomorrow, but chance it's not actually highlighted in the order paper tomorrow, then what?
Somebody can ask.
You can ask.
I can.
Can we task you also with that tomorrow you ask?
I don't know whether.
So that at least
we can raise it.
Yeah, we can raise it and we'll ask questions why.
We can raise it.
Of order.
Yes.
Or the point of order.
You can raise it and bring it to the attention of the speaker. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
That is doable.
That's doable. So
whether this table can task anybody to do that?
Yes. So as a speaker here, I'm tasking you, Honorable Nyikal, tomorrow
to raise a point of order.
To raise a point of order tomorrow in the House on the matter of IBC.
And the House has its procedures that we respect. If we start doing that,
I'll be watching. No, I'll be watching tomorrow if you keep.
Yeah, within the provisions of the standing order.
Yeah, there's nothing illegal about it.
But the BAL is petitioning you.
But I know
what is key now.
Yes. Budget and finance bill. Those two. Yes, those are key.
All right, let's hear from Honorable Makali. So moving forward, since I was wondering, on both sides of the House, the Senate, since you've agreed on these are minor issues, so what is making the Senate not really go full steam ahead with the passing of this bill, if you're privy to it?
Which bill?
The NADCO report.
Oh, the
I
report.
think the report is over now.
The report is over now.
It
You know what is now
bills.
happening? As a result of passing the report, a number of bills were generated
From that report.
from the report
Yes.
now. And I think
The IBC,
I think there are 7 number.
they actually 8 or 7.
I think either 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Now, what is now supposed to be happening is now, these bills which were generated are supposed now to be debated in the houses and passed, so that now actually you now action the NADCO report. So I think the most immediate one was ABC. The next was election political acts reforms. The issue of adhering to what the political parties should be doing. There are about 3 which are quite critical, and that's why we had, even before we went for this break, we had agreed that these ones will need to be prioritized so that we pass them. And I think there's goodwill, basically. But what Nyikal has not said is that despite the minority leader and the majority sitting in that team, we also have hardliners in Parliament, individuals who would want to delay this thing. And given a chance to open the reports, the bills, it will be very tricky. We'll never pass them. So that's what you see is a very guarded process. That since we agree, let's pass these things as they are, for the benefit of this country. And I think we don't want to take so much time in doing this, because we are going through serious issues, like what we are discussing. Issues where Kenyans are out there, they should be represented, they are not being represented in the parliament, in the county assemblies. And this is a big gap. And I can tell you for sure, like in Banisa,
yes,
they have not been able to use their CDF allocation, even though they will still get the money with the new MP when he comes in. But they'll have lost a year or 2 in the process of waiting. And you know, catching up with 2 years of implementation is not easy. So we are disadvantaging those voters who are in those areas where we don't have representatives.
Thank you.
But I think all said and done, we need to
I wanted to lecture on the issue of political acts because we had ODM also.
Yes.
The court ruling that we had on it, I think the beginning of May. That's just not beginning, around 20th there.
Yes.
Right. Where Kenya Kwanza administration was seeking to reduce the Political Funding Act.
Yeah, funding, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that particular judgment was in favor of ODM.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
So how are we protecting and ring fencing this political funding moving forward? Because especially with this Political Parties Act that or bill that is there, that has been also enshrined within the NADCO report. Because it seems also we can have any administration coming and trying to, in the spirit of austerity measures, also affecting the political funding, political fund.
You know, the origin of the political funding is actually constitution. It's actually arising from the constitution itself. It was seen that it's necessary that the parties actually get funded, and it is in the law how much it should be, even in the budget, and that is what was not being done. And I think what the court
So what
did in
the
favor,
administration was doing was very unconstitutional. Not really unconstitutional, because it's not in the constitution, it's an act, isn't it? Right?
Yes, it's in the act, or when we are doing the budget, how much should go to the political parties. That is in law, but we are not doing it. So that is what the court actually decided in favor of ODM. It's ODM that went to court. So as you say, it is in favor of ODM. But I think it is in favor of all the political parties, because there is a way that is.
What was the reaction of Wiper? Just
So don't go into the distribution of when it has gone to into the coalitions. That's a different matter. But now that it's there, it should actually be implemented. And I think even as a team, we are concerned. And if what the court decided is not being implemented, we may have to move further. That's why I was saying the court can make a decision, but many times the executive eventually comes in. Even this matter of these bills coming in, the key on when they'll appear in the order paper, to a large extent, is in the hands of the Speaker. Having even said it's the House Business Committee, that's really how it works. So if there's goodwill, which we believe there is now, they should come in quickly. The political parties fund should be in the budget as proposed in the law. And once it is even put in the budget, even putting it in the budget does not mean you will actually get the money going to the parties. Then it should actually be released to the parties. So there are many processes. Eventually, whatever is passed in Parliament passes through the executive for it to have effect.
So this money is also they've been coming in tranches. You've never received a whole stock of,
I don't think
this is your billions as per, is it the 0.03%?
Yeah, it's actually the amount is 0.3%. And let me just give you a bit of details, because this is a matter we have discussed the last 1 week into serious details.
All right.
After the court ruling, which indicated that we need to give the money as per the Act, which is 0.03, the issue was, what do we do then? Because this is a court ruling. But what you realize, Dibal, even equalization fund, which is now in the constitution itself, we've not been giving the money as required by law. And what has happened is there are a few things that we've not been doing right as a country. The equalization fund, we've been giving below, and what has happened now, we are trying to catch up with the arrears. Now this one, it was even more serious, because what happened, this financial year, which is 2023, 2024, we had allocated 1.47 billion for political parties fund. The estimates. Supplementary one, it was reduced by about 800 million. So it remains 600. Now, the issue is, despite the fact that we are not even giving 0.3%, whatever little we are giving, we go and reduce it at the supplementary level. And our own analysis is that there has been an attempt to undermine democracy, because this money was actually to grow our democracy, to mature the democracy as we move on. And any attempt to reduce this money is a very clear signal that we are undermining democracy in this country. So what we have been saying is, can we push the money back? And this time we attempted to push it back to 1.4. But now another issue came up. We have only a month to the end of the financial year. So if you gave the money back to 1.4, and then with the liquidity issues, would the government even be in a position to release the money? And that's the issue being raised by Honorable Onyekao. And to make things worse, imagine, even this money, when you release it, the way it is shared out is by the strength of the party. So the most, in terms of beneficiary, the highest beneficiary would be the Kenya Kwanza, the UDA team. Because UDA is the one followed by ODM, followed by Wiper, and Jubilee, that hierarchy, the way the numbers are. But then you realize that even UDA, and they're the ones who are supposed to benefit more, they are also not even in support of this. So it's like there's that people are saying, why can't we push these figures to S in the Act? But then the issue of the fiscal space we have and all those things come up.
There's no
but
money.
I can tell you for sure,
There's no money.
Those are the issues, the fiscal space and all that, you know it.
But this is not the first time that you've not received, even with the previous administration. Have you ever, as a party?
We've never given 0.3.
Since this act came into play.
It has never been adhered to.
So it cannot be a money issue. There's a lack of political will at the end of the day.
Lack of political will, and also, and you know, like now parties are going through elections. So this is the time parties need money, and any time now you starve them of resources, you are punishing them more. That's what happens, because if you give parties enough money, they will be able to conduct good, what I would call fair elections, get the best leaders out of that, because you will not be using your own money to campaign. You will be using party resources in terms of, you know, now people have to pay. If you are contesting, you saw even in Uda. If you want to contest for chair, you pay some amount. If you want to contest for a position, you pay. If the party had money, people will not need to pay. So in that case, then you have fair play for everybody.
That's what you were saying about Uda as well.
Anybody can come on board and compete. But you know, now competition is actually becoming like our election, where you compete on the basis of how much resources you have at personal level, not at the party level. And I think we need to grow our parties to that next level, so that when we have strong parties, we have actually strong democracy in our country.
So there's no very robust intra-party democracy. At the end of the day, it's about what also you bring on the table.
Yeah,
Dr.
exactly.
Nyikal, 10 million for semi seats.
Yes.
That you have to pay. Also 10 million for.
That's basically
Kitui Central.
Because they want to survive.
As a member, you as a senator of Bomet also, maybe you need to also stash out a lot of money. So, but I want to ask a critical question before we come to you. Because you talk about a threat to democracy.
Yes.
Right? And we have also another threat to democracy that is arising from UDA, with the super mega party UDA that is trying to, be formed around, collapsing all these other parties. The question is, in that spirit, where we had Section 2 amended, that we would be having a multi-party democracy in the country, in the spirit of coalitions, how is that also a bigger threat to democracy, which is being steamrolled by UDA?
Debal, political parties are social institutions that are created by individuals freely. And circumstances, just like trade union, there are provisions for amalgamation and also
mergers.
Yes, and we have seen in South Africa. We've seen in South Africa ANC splitting itself to EFF, and now the latest in Qatar Freedom Fund.
We're waiting for the results.
And but now they exist as legal entities, because you can't stop people from associating, and you cannot also stop people from desiring to merge. It is done out of free will. And we have seen in the country, since the advent of multi-party, coalitions, formation of super coalition in 2002, we had NAC, and it did not go beyond 2005. By 2005, Orange movement had been born.
But there was no collapsing of parties. There was no collapsing of parties.
Orange, of course, NAC disappeared. by 2013.
Yeah, but the
by
parties are still there.
By 2013,
Coalitions that
yeah, those are
change.
coalitions.
Coalitions change,
Those are
but what you're saying, this is not coalitions changing, this is party
merger.
collapsing.
And after 2013, we saw TNA and URP collapsing to form Jubilee, which also dissipated somewhere along the way. We now have Kenya Kwanza coalition, and the free will of the parties within Kenya Kwanza coalition desiring to collapse themselves under one is done freely. Nobody is coerced. There are many coalition parties within Kenya Kwanza. There is Ford Kenya, there is PA, there is Mandeleo Chap Chap. There are so many, and none is going to be forced. And I agree very strongly. I think the most important thing here is that how do we strengthen internal democracy within the political parties? What are the day-to-day activities of the political parties, as was envisaged by the Constitution? Why did the Constitution find it necessary to fund the political parties through the exchequer, so that Kenyans can have free opportunity to exercise their constitutional right as provided in Article 38 without limitations? Now, this comes in the issue of direct tickets and all these other funny things being conducted. That is an antithesis and anticlimax of democracy. I argue very strongly.
Is that
for what
happening within the current
I argue
elections?
very strongly. And Professor Nyikal was, Makale Muli was talking about the heightened interest and excitement within UDA elections. UDA currently, and it intends to be very open and democratic. Right now it's conducting grassroots elections. The next level will be county elections and then national elections by December. It must be done because you cannot be a democratic political party if you don't allow members to exercise their sovereign right of electing leaders. And that is what is being done now. And that brings to fore what other parties and the arguments basically from the members of parliament here. Have we enabled political parties to operate freely? So that then when it comes to funding, the Constitution makes a very clear statement. The legislation specifies the amount to be appropriated to the political parties and the guidelines and all that. Why are we not doing it? We should do it. According to me, we should do it. The democratic elections in any general election is founded on democratic and fair nominations within the political parties. And that must be practiced. That one, it is something that has been oversighted in the country, so that then we have political parties whose operations in terms of democratic standards are below the threshold. And that is what we need to deal with. If we have to promote democracy in the country and allow people to exercise their political rights freely through the political parties they believe in. If they want to march, it's right. If they want to disintegrate, it's a right. If they want to create other political parties, it becomes a right. So it's a matter of institutional and policy competition. Other things other than, say, for example, conducting grassroots elections for the various political parties so that you allow members to elect leaders. There are matters to do with civic education. There are matters to do with, like, party manifestos. Where are party manifestos generated from? Because parties should be preparing for 2027 and other things. Policies of governance and development of the country should originate from political parties. And that is what eventually brings a sum up to the government policies, the pieces of legislation in parliament, and this is how we advance our country democratically and also economically and politically. So to me, I don't think the issue of funding political parties as provided by law is anything to debate about. It is something that we should do. Political parties must be accountable. We must see the democratic processes. We must see membership participation. Political parties should not only exist for nominations during general elections and for dishing out tickets for parliamentary and the rest. It should be democratic as far as possible. We should see more democratic practices within the political parties than even in the general election. And that is what the Constitution envisaged. And I believe that spirit It's what we have missed, and we should have it recourse.
But the rival
and it is what UDA is attempting to do at the moment. We have political parties that transcend ethnic groupings, political parties that are national in character. And I think Kenya has the best opportunity to develop this. Our democratic development compared to many jurisdictions within the region and globally, I can say is extremely good. We don't need to lose and drop the ball from where we are. And this is...
But Kenya Kwanza administration is dropping the ball with the underfunding of this political party. This has been a ball of contention.
About Kenya Kwanza. Funding and financing, that's and budgeting, that's parliament. And we have to call out all of us.
Is it parliament?
Let me
you need to call out.
You're pivoting it
No, this is what actually... No, that's how it is. If you ask Dr. Nyikala at the end of the day, is it you? No.
Let me just answer. Everything he has said in general principle is correct. For the parties to be strong, for the parties to be free, for the parties to manage their affairs, they actually need funding. And that's why we actually decided as a country that we should fund them to a certain level. Because if they don't have funds, then other influences come in. The problem, after we have said they should be funded, after we have even put in the budget, Honorable Makali was telling you, the next thing, if you're going to the exchequer release that goes, the money that is then released to the parties, that is eventually the point. Where is that? That is bang on the executive. So we can only come in if they haven't done it. Remember, we have even had to go to court. ODM has had to go to court to get that money in. If we put that money in, fine. Then you can now blame the parties. You have been funded. Why is it that you are raising money from people? Because once you start raising money from people, then you give the people who have a lot of money start to have influence. So let's agree. We all agree that they should be funded. After we have funded them, we are at least in the budget, let the money be released to the parties. That is the final bit that will eventually make it work.
So you stand to be the richest party in this country, ODM.
It's not richest. It's also, as you were saying, ODM is...
You want 10 billion shillings, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. Even... What if you want to really know? If you want to know, if you want to talk of the wealth, talk of the per capita in terms of membership. Because if you have a country that has a lot of members, it's across the country. If you take a party that is national and is doing its elections, sometimes it's almost the same as a national election. Because you are going constituency to constituency. It is almost the same in finance. Yes. So they may have a lot of money. So ODM may get a lot of the money, as Honorable Makali said. It goes with the numbers. With the numbers as they are now, UDA will get probably the highest. ODM will be number 2, like that. But what they have to manage is also bigger. So when you say we are richest, it will that we are likely to be the richest.
But why are you shy?
Because
why are you greatly shy to admit that you're rich?
What I'm saying,
I think what you have to agree.
Let him finish.
Let him finish. If you have a school which has got, say, 1,000 children, 1,000 kids, and another one has got, say, 300, and if you are going at marginal differences, must be considered with the numbers that they're dealing with. That's why I'm saying I don't want to admit that we are going to be the richest. We are actually the most needy. Let's put it like that.
All right. We need to take a short break. When we circle back, of course, now we plumb deeper into the Mount Kenya and the Rift Valley politics, as it were, sentiments that we saw earlier from the president and his deputy as well. What does this really portend? And by the way, we here in 2007 with the 2 regions as well, and everyone is having bugbears, fears, and trepidation that maybe also, are we lifting a scab on an already festering wound that has never been addressed in this country between the 2 communities, as it were? And where is the trajectory of this moving forward? Are we having a replay of what really happened with Deputy President then? That is William Ruto and President Uhuru Kenyatta. We take a short break.